Double decrease can be done in many different ways. I want my right hand stitch of the 3 to be decreased to wind up on the top of the decrease. So I want them stacked in order, right hand, left hand, and then the middle one underneath. So they make a stack like that. So the easiest thing to do is to separate out the 2 layers to begin with and put the 3 stitches that need to be decreased together side by side on the needle. So I've just slipped the 2 sets of stitches apart and slipped them back onto the left needle. Now we can go about the double decrease just as we normally would. So in order with these conventionally mounted stitches, to make them with the right hand one on top, I need to slip as if to knit the first stitch, knit the next 2 together, and very gently pass the slip stitch over. We want to be as gentle as possible not to distort it. So that's my front decrease done. And now I'm ready for the far layer. I've moved both my yarns forward and I'm going to begin by slipping the first stitch of the far layer. Then I'm going to turn these 2 stitches and return them to the left needle. And by putting my needle into the inner one, then the outer one, I'm going to purl those 2 stitches together. That will put this stitch on top, and then very gently lift the one I slipped over. So I'm now down to 1 stitch on each side. And on this arrangement I've got my left stitch on top, but as long as I'm consistent on both sides it doesn't matter. So I think that's how I'm going to work, with the right stitch on top on the front layer, left stitch on top on the back layer, and the only other decreases you will see on this side will all be sloping to the left. So as long as you're consistent, it really doesn't matter. If you've been working with unconventionally mounted purls, we'll have to rethink it. The front remains the same, so we'll separate the layers. Remount the stitches. So I'm remounting them in unconventional orientation, although you could perfectly well change them to normal stitch mount whilst you're separating the 2 groups of stitches. So I'm going to slip my first one, knit my other 2 together, gently pass the first one over. That's my front decrease done. And now I'm going to slip my first stitch to turn it back to normal stitch mount. These 2 are already turned, so I can just go straight into them. Oh, we're doing unconventional rotation here. So purl those 2 together and then gently lift the first one I slipped over. So in fact, I would say it's actually slightly easier with unconventional stitch mount.